Welcome to Malicious Reddit. Sit comfortably because today we are exploring exactly what happens when a parasite decides to host on the wrong person. There is a specific kind of predator in the business world. They look for the new, the hungry, and the vulnerable. They see a fresh sign on a door, and they don't see a local entrepreneur building a dream. They see a mark. They see someone who hasn't yet developed the thick skin or the ironclad legal contracts required to keep the wolves at bay. 8 years ago, I was that mark. I had opened my small bed and breakfast just 3 months prior. Every cent I owned was buried in the floorboards and the industrial kitchen equipment. I was struggling, living on caffeine and hope, trying to keep my head above water while the weight of the world tried to pull me under. To make matters worse, the universe had decided to test my breaking point. My father had just passed away, leaving a void that no amount of work could fill. I was the sole provider and caretaker for my grieving mother, and I was exactly 2 months away from my wedding day. I needed every single penny to survive, to mourn, and to celebrate. That was when he walked in. Let us call him the contractor. He had a lucrative contract in the area and needed housing for a large crew of men for 6 days. Dinner, bed, and breakfast. It was a massive order for a new business. He told me the company needed to add me to their payment system and promised the full transfer by Friday. I was naive. I was exhausted. I said yes. The week was grueling. I worked 20-hour days to ensure his crew was fed like kings and slept in pristine comfort. I poured my last remaining resources into high-quality ingredients and fresh linens, all while smiling through the haze of my father's recent funeral. Friday morning arrived. I went to the rooms to begin the turnover, expecting to see the contractor with a check or news of the bank transfer. The rooms were empty. They had fled in the dead of night like thieves in the shadows. No note, no payment, and no answered phone calls. The silence in those empty rooms was deafening. I spent the next 6 months begging. I called, I emailed, and I pleaded. I told him about my mother. I told him about the wedding. I told him that I was drowning. He didn't care. He had received his service for free, and in his mind, that made him the winner. The financial fallout was devastating. I couldn't pay my utility bills. I had to take out high-interest loans just to keep the lights on for the next guest. It took me years to crawl out of the debt hole he kicked me into. But while I was paying off those loans, I was also nursing a very specific, very dark flame in my chest. He thought the debt was settled because he ignored it. I decided the interest rate was going to be his entire life. The revenge did not start with a bang. It started with a dial tone. I knew his schedule because I had memorized his habits during that week. I knew when he liked to sleep. So I began the nightly chimes. Every single night, at 2 or 3 in the morning, I would mask my number and call him. Sometimes I would set an alarm specifically to wake up and ruin his rest. Other times, if I woke up in the night for a glass of water, I would reach for the phone. I wouldn't speak, I would just let it ring. If he answered, I would hang up the moment I heard his groggy, frustrated voice. If he didn't answer, I would call again and again. I wanted him to feel that spike of adrenaline and irritation in the middle of his deepest sleep. I wanted him to be afraid of his own ringtone. I kept this up for years. Eventually, he had to disconnect his long-standing business number because the midnight harassment was relentless. That was just the appetizer. I then took his professional email and his personal cell phone number and performed a digital baptism. I registered him for every possible spam list, every aggressive telemarketing firm, and every obscure high-traffic adult website I could find. His inbox became a radioactive wasteland of scams and filth. Next, I moved to his reputation. In the business world, your name is your currency, and I decided to devalue his to zero. I tracked his business across every review platform on the internet. Using his full legal name, I detailed exactly how he operated. I wrote about his theft, his lack of integrity, and his habit of preying on small family businesses. I didn't stop at review sites. I found his business Facebook page. Every time he posted a photo of a completed project or a happy crew, I was there in the comments. "This man is a thief," I would write. "He steals from grieving families." He eventually grew so tired of the public shaming that he set his entire social media presence to private. He retreated from the public eye, but I followed him into the shadows. I began messaging his friends and his business associates directly. I sent them the proof of what he had done. I made sure that every time he walked into a room, there was a non-zero chance that someone in that room knew he was a deadbeat. I was the ghost in his machine, a constant reminder that you cannot build a tower on a foundation of stolen labor without it eventually leaning. The final blow required a bit of geographical research. His business was located in a city several hours away, a place where he felt safe and anonymous. I used digital maps to identify his neighbors and the surrounding businesses. I then began a series of anonymous tips and calls to the local community. I didn't just call him a thief. I told them he was running a much darker operation out of his shop. I suggested to the neighborhood watch and the local businesses that his frequent late-night movements were actually drug distributions. I planted seeds of suspicion everywhere he lived and worked. I wanted him to feel watched. I wanted the police to drive slowly past his shop. I wanted his neighbors to look at him with disgust when he took out the trash. Not long after the pressure reached its peak, I received the news I had been waiting for. His business had folded. The doors were locked, the equipment was auctioned, and the contractor was finished. My own business is now established and thriving. I make good money, and I no longer worry about the bills. But even now, years later, I don't regret a single phone call or a single review. He kicked me when I was at my lowest point, and I made sure he never found his footing again. That is the price of a free stay at my hotel. There is a profound beauty in a long-term investment, especially when the dividend is pure, unadulterated justice. Our protagonist today proved that while a thief might win the sprint, the person they robbed is often prepared for the marathon. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of retribution, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Here at Malicious Reddit, we are always looking for more stories of people who refuse to be victims. Do you have a story of a debt that was paid back in full? Share it in the comments below. Until next time, remember, keep your receipts and never, ever cross someone with nothing left to lose.